Okay, I'd like to call this July regular meeting of the Palmyra-Eagle Area School District School Board to order at 7 o'clock. Can we have the roll call?
Mitzi Roszewski.
Here.
Tara Leroy.
Here.
Zachary Rukowski.
Here.
Christiana Williams.
Here.
Doris Parsons.
Here.
And
we have a quorum.
Michael Eddy.
Oh,
Here.
And Jean Reed. Sorry.
I'd like to read the district mission statement, which is to ensure that students excel with intellect and virtue, inspired by innovative educators who engage and challenge each individual. Would you all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Are there any changes or additions to the agenda? Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda stands. Is there any public comment at this time? Okay. Thank you. We're going to go right into board monitoring. We have 3 items on that. The first is discussion regarding the approval dealing with delinquent accounts sent to a collection agency.
And there was something that we were discussing, Gigi and Bob. They brought it up to say, hey, could we use a collection agency for those accounts that are delinquent? I'm still pending reviewing a report. If they had it already, but just couldn't review it today. And just to be able to present, okay, this is more or less how much people or some families owe, and this is a way to if it makes sense. Because if it's $50 here, there, and over there, you're not going to have a collection agency go after those accounts. But if it's like $1,000, $2,000, you may be able to get someone. Now, as a way to collect money, it could be helpful. Of course, not absolutely convinced of the results that it could bring, or if we even want to, perhaps think of it. But I wanted to bring it as a discussion to say, well, what do you think? Would it be a good idea? Would it be something that we might be good to consider? See if anyone is even willing to do it for the amounts that are owed to us, and just in general, to make sense. So
Do we presently try and work with families with
Yes.
like a payment plan or setting up things like that for people who aren't able to pay at all?
yes, there's a way, and there's also, so they call them and ask for, the money that they owe. And then on top of that, by graduation, they haven't, turned in their payments. They usually are not allowed to walk the diploma. That's about it. And again, without looking at that report, I don't know that it's a whole lot of money. Maybe I just at this point I was hoping to get that to see that, but I'm sorry, I was not able to do that.
Yeah, I guess I would like to see the context of what's owed and how much. Maybe it's a situation where the family's kind of on the outs and they need help in some way. Maybe there's a way, as a board, we can maybe try and help them. I'm not a huge fan of sending out Guido and Vinny to collect $50. So if you could share that with us, maybe we can make some good decisions. If it's 1 or 2 families that have large sums, I'd like to understand what the sums are for, and maybe have a reapproach with this. That's my opinion.
I would bet a lot of it is people who leave the district.
Any other questions for Allison? Okay. B, discussion regarding reopening options, reviewing a reopening survey.
Do you want us to just talk about it so you can move through the entire thing? Then I don't know. The presentation.
Whichever, whatever works.
Well, is that helpful for everyone if we just move through the pieces?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So this is called
Carlin, can you hear? Do you think the video's picking up, or do you need a microphone?
Here,
Yeah, if you could give her a microphone, that'd be helpful.
Who are watching this would like to hear.
Good evening, everybody. What I want to point out to you is, sitting before you, we call ourselves the leadership team, and we are the leaders of the school. So we've worked on this project for probably a good month to put together a very solid plan for the board to examine to make the best decisions for our children, our community, and our families. So if you look first at our goal, we actually talked about what is the goal of this project, and we plan to make the best decisions for our students and staff in regards to health and safety, while still ensuring that the students receive a high-quality education. At the very top, you can see the flow chart. The leadership team are the four sitting before you, and like I said, we met in, we did many meetings to put this together. The next piece, we did a SWOT analysis, and I know I have some business-minded folks in the audience, but that strategy is basically brainstorming strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, so that we don't halt or stop any ideas and move through that strategic strategy. And we actually did this prior to the June 22nd publication of Education Forward. So we were working off documents like WHO and CDC and all the good research that's out there. Please note that whatever we were doing, we looked at solid, credible research. So we weren't just looking, for example, at something like on Wikipedia or some source that we didn't think was credible. Then we moved into action plan and communication, and I put in your packet an example of an action plan template for you to see that as we work together, we function that way, so we know who's doing what, what's the task, what's the measure, how it's going to be done, and the metric piece. So I wanted you to see that example, and I know when you looked at the WIAA action plan in your packet, you can see one that's completed together with our work team. The next slide, I'm going to actually turn it over to Katie to talk a bit.
All right, so taking on this task is a very grave and very serious matter that says some very intense outcomes that we can really work together to benefit our students. So when we were coming up with these proposals, all three of the proposals that we're giving to the board tonight, first and foremost, follow those safety guidelines and scheduling recommendations as outlined by DPI. So the Education Forward document that they put out during the midst of our planning process really was a guiding tool as we considered what was correct and appropriate for our community and our community's needs. So these plans are part of the Jefferson County Schools Health Department reopening group as well, and follow their guidelines in that process. Now, in all of the versions that DPI put out for in-school, meaning some physical attendance, whether it was a static or a rotation attendance, they've been presented as 4-day models in some fashion, whether that's an A-B rotation group, or that's a 4-day week with 1 day of no attendance, or a hybrid model of virtual and in-person. DPI's guideline is that there be a recommendation of fewer physical days in school a week. So that first plan, in summary, is we're going to call it that physically distanced 4-day week. So that's going to look at using flexible scheduling to have students attend a 4-day week to ensure deep, consistent, and proper sanitation and distancing, but staff would attend for 5 days. So the recommendation that DPI gives is to have off on a Wednesday, where that would ensure that students were together in groups or cohorts for more than 16 hours in a row before we provided a deep, thorough sanitization. That allows us to ensure that should illness pop up, we have a day we have to respond, and we can really control where we're limiting access to students in a timely manner, and knowing that we're always going to have that break every 16 hours for students to address those needs as they pop up. In-person learning 5 is the next plan. So that really looks at maybe our community needs would dictate a 5-day week, so looking at how can we utilize that 5-day process to fully utilize those sanitation practices, and social distancing accommodations. So this is a very flexible and fluid plan, much like all of ours are. But out of our 3 choices, this really gives us the most sort of communication opportunities to discuss how we socially distance. So for an example, that plan might include using Palmyra-Eagle Elementary as an option for our 3, 4, 5, and using Eagle Elementary as a K-1-2 to ensure proper social distancing. It could include something like doing 9 through 12 virtually and doing middle school in person. There's a lot of flexibility within that plan that we can work together to create the nitty-gritty that would apply properly to our district. And then the last plan is a plan that DPI advocates for as sort of an option that would be virtually only, where we would copy a model similar to what MPS released today, which is absolutely no student contact for a decent period of time. I believe MPS's plan this morning announced a 30 to 45-day stay on all in-person education, and then a phase into hybrid, and then eventually turning into full person instruction around the holidays, factoring in some health department information into there.
I shared this earlier, but I just wanted to interject that we did send to the board the latest article about our neighboring school districts, Aguanago and Cabell-Moraine. That is something I think that would be valuable to look at because they're neighboring districts and how they're feeling about it. And I also shared that I have been part of the collaboration with Jefferson County superintendents and Pam Strake, who is the health department liaison, and they will be putting out actually a news article probably in the next couple days, and I did send you a draft of what they're thinking.
And then with the virtual learning, again, that would be something that we would probably station teachers at school, and we would move forward appropriately to make sure that students were serviced appropriately in all areas. It is important to note that when Michelle had sent the information, our neighboring school districts are planning forward with a 5-day in-person week, sort of with those backup plans of being able to switch to virtual learning when needed, should the health department create or mandate a necessity for us to change, and we should decide that our numbers are inappropriate for our students. So our neighboring school districts are offering that to families, and I feel given our tenacity as an open enrollment school district that we need to be aware of how our choices may affect the enrollment both ways. As a welcoming beacon for other districts that may not have options that we do, and outward if we're unable to provide an education similar. So they have actually come out with those official plans saying that they plan on being open for a 5-day.
I agree. Really, I think that one of the biggest things is looking at is each grade level doesn't have to do the same thing, like Katie was talking about. You know, I could look at something different for my maybe 9, 12 kids versus the 6, 8 kids and things like that. I think the other thing will be getting kids here early to build those relationships is going to make online, if we have to go there, so much easier. I know my staff members sitting in the audience would agree that because they had those relationships, unfortunately, when March hit, it was a little easier to have all the video chats and not be with them. Would be really hard if we didn't have to start a school year fully that way. And I think especially with little kids too, and new teachers and new administrators, you know, that is something we have to think about. You know, this is going to be probably the most fluid situation any of us have ever dealt with. We are 6 weeks out and we could be in a completely different situation in 6 weeks. Could be way better, could be way worse. As I said last spring, you know, I'm confident we can do virtual and do a good job, but in person is always obviously going to be the most effective way to go. Yep.
I just want to make sure we touch upon the slide. This is directly from our DPI manual, and just pay attention to some students and staff, you know, may feel unsafe coming into the school building and may need to work or study from home, and that's something we need to be aware about and address as a board as we work together. They gave examples like those over age 60 at a higher risk category. Staff may have underlying conditions putting them at high risk for infection, and students may have underlying conditions or live with family members who are at high risk. So those are very important points we're going to need to consider as the board examines those choices.
The must address slide, which is the last slide, is really the plan. So once I think we have a direction of kind of where we want to float as far as the option, then we can start getting into the nuts and bolts of it. Because saying you're coming 5 days or 4 days or not coming is fine, but how you're going to educate kids is where we need to go now. And that's, I think, kind of coming to you now and saying, you know, what option, what do you think will give us some guidance to move down as far as busing and lunches and hallways and all of those things that are going constantly in everybody's head.
And I have to add, we were also working on a survey for the community, and we're working on a survey for our teachers, because I think if we don't hear their voices, we may be missing important issues that we will be facing as we move forward. This is a very risky situation if we don't treat it well, if we do it right, and if we, you know, are fluid, as Ari rightfully said. I think the big emphasis is in fluidness, and we may need to go virtual just on a moment's notice because there was a kid that came in a bus that was just turned out to be infected. So keeping it as open-minded as possible to respond to the emergency, I think, protecting lives, keeping kids healthy, but also the community healthy. It has to be our main priority, and I think that's, you know, for everyone to consider, but I think that's pretty much where this is going.
Forever the optimist, I do want to point out the opportunities, because when I'm looking ahead, I always think in my mind, what can we gain from something, even if it's something that we're, in a sense, dreading a bit. So that's how my mind works. And when I go back to that SWOT analysis we did, can you go to the slide, please? I just wanted to point out, no, the opportunity. I wanted to point out, we titled this one, "In everything we do, we take pride in grabbing our future opportunities." So we at Palmyra-Eagle Area School District, that's what we stand for. We're going to strive for the best. And so some of the opportunities we wanted the board to recognize, this list isn't finished, but it's what we came up in our brainstorms. Grow and expand our amazing online learning opportunities. We have a chance to be an expert in that area, and hopefully others will model what we're doing. Are we fully utilizing virtual learning? We may find out that when we examine data and examine how learning goes, that we want to keep a course or two virtual learning. I don't know, that's an opportunity we can explore. Brainstorm alternative options for learning with our school district, and who knows what that may look like with blended learning and things that we learn throughout this journey. I would love to see, and I know the board is yearning to always be the best we can be. I call it become the district that is a destination district for parents and professionals. And what I mean by that, in my past, we would get really good at something, and others around the state would read about us and say, hey, why reinvent the wheel? Let's go actually do a site visit to that school district and collaborate with principals and teachers and students to learn what they're doing so that we can emulate that and do it the best way that we can. Explore and pilot virtual academy, pull back students, hopefully for open enrollment, because we're doing wonderful things. And we talked about as well this wonderful opportunity we have with a former employee, Tracy, who is now the director of the library in Palmyra, and we see that as a great opportunity because then we can slogan the same, open that up to our students. So we see that as a wonderful, lovely opportunity that I know Tracy's very excited to explore with us.
All right, so quickly sort of going a little bit deeper into the options that we would like the board to consider and weigh in on the direction that we'd like us to go in. Each plan offers some really unique experiences that we can apply to our school district. So when we're talking about that physically distanced 4-day, recognizing what Alfredo said with that, there will most likely come a time when we do need to go virtual. A 4-day week for students represents a sanitation opportunity to make sure that our students are physically being safe, but it also represents a built-in planning day to ensure that our in-person instruction and virtual instruction are being co-planned to co-serve our students, so that We're not just focusing on in-person instruction and then boom, we have to go to, virtual on a Friday, like we did this time. I'm often reminded that our last full normal day of school was Friday the 13th of a full moon. So barring that never happening again, this would be an opportunity to really use those Wednesdays to get together as a team and collaborate and make sure that we're reaching out to families and that they have the connections they need and they're able to connect virtually so that should we get to that point again, we're prepared for it. And that's something that, given our unique circumstances this year, really is an opportunity that we could dive deep into on that 4-day week. Wednesdays could also be used for one-on-one virtual needs for those students who, in our student services department, who are working on speech needs or OT needs or a variety of things that we can work in small groups to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all students, particularly students that need those extra supports that are built in.
Option B would be that 5-day full in-person. If you notice, there is on there kind of a caveat for an option of virtual 6-12. Wouldn't have to be 6-12, as I said before, could be 9-12, could be 6-8 if we felt that was a more appropriate group. But again, that would give us the elementary school in-person. The distancing still is going to happen just because they're all in the building doesn't mean we're going to shove them all in here on top of each other. Obviously, those safety measures are going to be in place. High school, again, could do some virtual things as we needed to do. Everybody's still receiving that appropriate education. But again, having the kids in the building those 5 days a week.
And then our last option, which would be to start virtual learning for all. So there are some advantages to this. Our families are certainly used to that modality right now, which would be continuation of something that we're doing. It would be we'd have to ensure that all students have the proper internet access and providing those good device connections. Teachers may be based at school, and we could really support them one-on-one with making sure that their class needs are met. And we could work as a team more deeply to identify some of those resources throughout the virtual learning. So I'll be interested to see the results of our community survey to see where community aligns with those 3 needs.
I just wanted to point out, this is obviously the beginning phase of this project, and that's why we shared with you the action plan template. And when I spoke out to all, I hope you read my musings, that we'll all be engaged in this planning once the board gives us good direction on how we will be doing this. So it will take many leaders, not just the 4 leaders sitting before you, but we'll be calling upon our leaders in all different departments and those pieces to then help us create the action plans that suit all the must-addressed areas. As you can see, it's quite an extensive list. So it'll be a very cohesive, collaborative activity for all to share and do their best work with this. And we're going to ensure we use all expertise.
So the survey really is very short. Some demographics, it can be taken by community members, parents, or students. We looked at other surveys, honestly, there's lots of districts doing them. Looked at surveys as far as like what typical data would be collected as far as race, minority, things like that. Again, it really kind of is going to get a feel for how many kids people have, what grades the kids are going into. I feel the grades is really important because you have a lot of concern at 4th grade, you need to address those concerns. So kind of knowing where maybe different pockets of concerns lie. Then it will also address students who have needs. So if a kid has an IEP, a 504, is an English learner student, internet. And we went a little farther, and I'll be honest, I stole this from the district where I grew up, than just I have internet or I don't, because one of the common issues we found is, Zach's got 3 kids at home, 3 kids on the internet all at the same time. His internet may not support that. So it's questions about reliable for multiple kids, reliable for 1 kid, not very reliable, or not at all. I think that will really help with like video chatting, for example. We were trying to video chat with kids who had 3 kids at home. We had to kick everybody off everything to be able to do that. So that'll be good information. Do you support sending your kids back to school? Just a blanket question. And then there's some reopening questions that everyone would take. Ranking the options we presented for you. So what's your first choice, what's your second choice, what's your third? What safety measures would you support in reopening? So we didn't really want to ask people the mask question and some of that, but we wanted to get an idea about face coverings and distancing, temperature checks, and washing and sanitizing, cafeteria seating, things like that. And then the last one is just an open-ended share thoughts you have or things that you think will help us, and then optional name and email, otherwise it would be completely anonymous. There's probably, we haven't sent this out yet, and there's definitely a little bit of tweaking, but we wanted to keep it short and simple and try and get some information back.
We also looked at our demographic of our district and wanted to ensure the best that we can communicate with all. So I hope you see in your packet, we also had it put together in Spanish to emulate the one that you see in English, keeping mindful of that as well.
Just to say that
there are some hotspots that we can distribute to kids, and apparently DPI is going to start working on that. So depending on who has spotty connections, and we know that a good part of our population will probably have spotty connections. And I've seen in Lake Geneva very spotty connections too. So it's not something that I think is particular to any kind of place. It's just simply the type of internet connection they have. So it's possible to go fully online. Yes, it is not the best way to learn, probably especially for certain ages of kids. Again, it's just a balance of safety and learning. That's what I want to say. Thanks.
So, with this survey, how quickly can you get this running?
It's a Google survey, so as soon as we feel it's done, it can go out and we'll get results immediately.
Can you keep people from taking it over and over again?
So here's some of the hiccups with Google. You cannot. We have to at some point respect that people will be professional, and we'll put something on the top. That's really what needs to be fleshed out yet, is kind of the blurb either that would go with the link or on top about it is anonymous. Please be respectful and only take it one. But like you and your wife could both take it, you may have different opinions on different things. So it's not once per household. You do not. It's not once per household. It's once per family. And we would encourage kids to take it as well. This one we did not write, in my opinion, with staff in mind, but they could easily be adapted to it. And there's some of the questions in the middle, Zach, as far as like grades your kids are in, anybody who's a community member, so like Jean, she wouldn't see or answer any of those questions to try and keep the data a little cleaner.
Could you use survey monkey instead, or something where you could track?
in essence, we thought about it too. As much as I would like to say that SurveyMonkey it is a better tool in many ways for questions, for some of the questions specific, and because you get one person per hit, or at least you can identify the person, and you have to log in. You have to take more steps than just, the Google survey. You just go to it, it's right there. You can leave your data if you want to. If not, because we do have a bit of a question that if you want to leave the data there, but it's just for informational purposes only, and in case we want to, maybe ask questions directly to that person. So even though, yes, you can have repetitions, it's a more open invite for people to just go in and fill their answers and just, trust on them to not be duplicated.
So who's it going out to? Because you mentioned community members can fill it out. Say, Jean, she doesn't have any children in the school.
Yeah, so we would have to use, obviously, we can use our Blackboard Connect to reach all families currently enrolled in the district.
Right.
And then we would have to rely on, social media and our website and some of those things. Not obviously community members' opinions are important, but I think more than anything we want the opinion of our parents, and we can easily get all of that. Or at least get it to them, I should say.
I would be fear that there's somebody who would, be in our district but want to influence our district.
Yeah, and most of the other ones I looked at did use Google, and I think, like Al said, just for the accessibility, you don't need an account, it's quick, you can do it from any device you have. And in the end, it's gonna be data points, you know, we still are going to be making the decisions and things like that, but we want the community to have an opportunity to be heard. And I think there are some things that I personally may not agree with, but if that's what the community wants, you know, that's what we want to do. So trying to be respectful. I also think if we can get a good enough turnout from families, I mean, I'll be blunt, it would take a lot of community members to really tank the data. You know, hopefully nobody's now conspiring to tank my data, but it would take a lot of people, a lot of time to do that. And you can, on Google, limit, but then it requires a sign-in to Google, which is worse than SurveyMonkey. We should go with SurveyMonkey if we're gonna go that way.
Yeah, I was just going to add that we can always rule out the outliers. I mean, if someone is just like very negative or just extremely positive, you can always be limiting those answers out of the statistics, the numbers that you.
My question is, what kind of time frame are we looking at for a survey done by, you know, in a couple of
I mean, the
weeks?
survey really just needs an opening kind of statement or an email, Connect 5, or press release Connect 5, or whatever like that. I mean, I think, and we've talked a little bit, the question part of things is done, so, I mean, give me till after graduation, but, I mean, I would say it could go out next week if the board's in support of it.
I think the sooner the better on the survey.
And
I appreciate that because we have been trying to get in sync with the other districts so that we look, you know, on top of our game as well, which we of course are on top of our game. So I appreciate that. That would be really good to do.
I could create a PDF version of it, so like if it were taken paper, you could see what the questions are, and I can email that to all of you. I can do that right now.
I have the survey.
Okay, you have it?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, I did that, I didn't know if it was in your packet. So yeah, I mean, I guess as long as you feel that the questions are appropriate. One I realized is not on there and wasn't on any other ones is gender, like of the person taking it. I don't know if we feel that's useful data, we could add it, but that's really the only thing that's kind of on a typical survey that I didn't see on there, yeah. So, I mean, it could go out whenever you tell us to after we write the opening statement.
tonight,
As soon as possible.
we'll sing later.
Marcy, we're all gonna sing later. So if we plan on putting that survey out, you know, ASAP, what that does is that also butts up against our registration period, which would be a really nice, like, coinciding, like, you could also sneak a line on there, don't think your registration starts July 20th. So then as parents are reaching out, you can say, oh, have you registered, have you taken our survey, you know, your input. I think that although it feels like we're in a rush to get things done because we have to get things out, I think the timing on this particular issue is a very sweet spot for timing in terms of our registration.
Yeah, we need this information, I think, before the next board meeting.
Absolutely.
That's why we're trying to.
Michael has a question.
Yeah, so I just have a couple comments. One, very, very thoughtful as to the plan. Certainly the survey is important. I hope the teachers are also involved in the survey. Being the health and safety of the children and the teachers are paramount. I like the idea of possibly cutting off the outliers in the survey, which would somewhat normalize your data, right? And then, but I would not, you know, let's get the survey out, like we're talking about, but I wouldn't let that hold you up from moving forward with each option. Because even if you, let's say, I'm not saying this is it, you pick the 5-day, like our surrounding neighbors, you may darn well find out you have to go to a 4-day the following week. So you better have that plan ready.
Right.
And it better be vetted out, because the last thing you want to do is, you know, be confused as to what we do next.
I fully agree.
So I think, you know, taking in the health and safety of the kids, the teachers, get the survey out, and then, like Zach said, let's get it in our hands before the next board meeting so we can give you the proper direction.
Are you saying, just to be clear, Michael, just to be
Clear, Michael, are you saying you would like all of those pieces done first before, or the board? I guess I'm looking for some suggestion.
I'm saying,
Other just. Okay,
I'm saying that, you know, if you have time to work on the options, you can.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't wait for the survey to.
Oh, absolutely. We meet on a regular basis for at least 3 hours to work on these pieces. My question would be, keeping in line with our work, and as we know, other districts are putting out their scenarios, at what point would you all, and how does that work look to then communicate out scenarios? Obviously not with all the details in place. Is there any thoughts about that?
Well, one thing I did want to bring up, I just heard about this and I think it's really good because it's something that offers, once we hear back from the public. There are some people that are opposite ends of the spectrum. And there's teachers that are also afraid because of their situations. So I was just picking up a cousin from California and she's a teacher involved in her school district, and what they created was a separate entity. She said that separate universities, so that the teachers that aren't comfortable coming back at all will be teaching virtually with the kids that aren't comfortable coming back at all, that want to learn virtually. And they are actually running two programs, so that those that aren't comfortable can stay virtual, be virtual, and teach virtually. And then you can have your other option, whether it be the 4th or the 5th. So I don't know if you've thought of that, but I just thought that sounded really interesting and maybe something we could look into, because there are people psychologically that are just on way different hemispheres of this, and we have to be open to it. And for health reasons, I think it might cover something where there is A and B running at the same time. And I didn't know if that's something you guys were presenting or thinking about at all, but I think it's something in order to be able to, you have to be there for both sides.
I fully agree with you, Jean, because we know as we presented, there's going to be folks, like you said, with underlying conditions, and certainly we have to educate all and serve all, so thank you for that.
And it's something I think virtually, I think as carried with some of the class new coursework and stuff, I think going into the future, I think that's where she even said they're losing kids to choice in virtual schools. So in a way, this is going to come one way or another for us in education. So this is now, and if you set this up, it's probably something that will go for the future. So it kind of dovetails into the other, but I think there's probably things out there that you can already grab.
I just want to commend the entire team we had shared folders, and probably daily we were all putting in different research pieces to collaborate with this document, and then we laid out the format together and worked very collaboratively and very hard on this project, and I hope it shows in the work that we've done for you today.
I just have a few comments or questions. I know you had said that you've been working with Jefferson County.
Yes.
Have you also been reaching out, because we cover Washington County and other counties, have you reached out to them as well and kind of collaborated with what their recommendations are, which may or
I haven't as much, Tara, to be honest. I've just been watching some of their information, and I've had a contact from some superintendents that direction. So I would love to, and I would love to supply you with that information.
And then also just wondering, do we have a general sense of where our staff kind of stands, their comfort level, their concerns? Have you been able to get with them? Because I just really want to make sure that they're comfortable, that they feel safe, that they're able to do the things that they can be effective, but that they also have the tools and the training that they need to do the jobs that we're asking of them.
I can speak a little to elementary specifically. So I held a lot of goal-setting meetings with educators prior to starting the position. And much like Jean shared, it's a very polarizing environment. Either I feel like we're completely on board, or for a personal or other reason, we're not on board with coming back to school. And I feel those sentiments will be sort of echoed in our community. So I have 5 new teachers at the elementary level. They're all very eager and excited in their own right. And of my new individuals, I feel the sentiment is that they really want to start and have those relationships formed so that they can and have a good basis to go off of. But I've also received feedback from staff who are very concerned that they wanted to know what other assignments were available and if there was some flexibility. And I said that those were things that we'd be vetting out in a final plan down to the nuts and bolts of it. So, I think it echoes our community of a very sort of all across that board.
You had asked about a timeline of releasing information. I'm seeing your survey a week to 2 weeks, 10 days perhaps of an open window for response, and then closing and getting dependent upon Jefferson County when they release their information. I think we need to put out something, and some of your slides I think would be perfect towards the beginning, or some of your slides I think would be perfect, that these are the things we're looking at. But I also think we need to remember this is still a fluid situation that we have no control over. And we can say we're taking these steps and being as proactive as we can, but we still have to conform to federal guidelines, CDC guidelines, World Organization guidelines, as well as our DPI. So I think as long as you get some information back from the survey, you get some information from your staff, and then we can have some sort of idea. But I think you have the basis to release some information, and with Tara's idea of collaborating with Waukesha County, I think that's when we kind of go forward. So it's not a definite time frame, in my opinion, but it's kind of follow the leader.
Have East Troy and Whitewater committed yet? I know kind of Marina McGuanago have, but
I haven't seen much from small districts.
that's what I was wondering. Those are big districts.
Short plan is coming up their next board meeting, so that's, I believe.
Yes,
Okay,
and-
so I'd
and-
be interested in knowing where they're going.
And East Troy was discussing the use of a virtual learning program to supplement as an online option in lieu of having their own teachers do it. It's sort of like an outsourced service to an online learning program that kids work through on their own. So to sort of offset some of those costs, because if we're dedicating teachers virtually, then that changes who's available to socially distance in our buildings. But I don't think Whitewater is officially announced yet.
I have a full day tomorrow webinar with WASBO. And so they're going to be providing a lot of legal issues that we may be facing. This is something we have to keep in mind. What could happen, teachers, costs, if someone gets sick because we have them in the classroom, all sorts of issues that come around this, that is not just the educational side, it's also the business and the risk side of things. I will have more information about tomorrow, and then I can just perhaps share with you the documents and the materials that they would provide. Okay, thanks.
Just a heads up, CDC did adapt documents again, and I know Missy's shaking her head, so you know how challenging that is. I think it was 5 different documents that they updated from the beginning when we started working on this project. So please know that we continually keep updating our shared folders, and I actually have my phone set up to ping me every time, like WHO puts something out or CDC, so it kind of goes off all the time, and I'm reading all the time. So, any other questions about this project?
Thank you for all your
You're
hard
welcome.
work, and it's a tough situation, but it looks like you're on the ball and getting on top of it and laying out plans that we know we should be ready with all of them to see which way we can.
We're looking forward to your guidance with us. Our next item,
WIA sports reopening.
I just wanted to open with, again, this was done in collaboration with Joel, Carrie, and myself, and we have adopted an action plan format so we can just get used to this style of how we put things together.
You guys have the document, I'm not going to go through all of it. So about the time the Education Forward came out from DPI, a similar handbook came out from WIAA mandating kind of procedures in their mind for spring sports in July, as they're calling it. So this covers everything from open weight room to open gym to actual contests. So Joel and I met with Michelle and then met and put together the document. So as you kind of go through, I just want to point out some highlights. So it has kind of points of emphasis, which is everything, kind of every activity needs to keep in mind as far as face coverings and return to physical activity, which is one probably you didn't think about. A lot of these kids have done nothing and it's 90 degrees and they're outside and they're working hard now. Hygiene, as I look at Mr. Eddie and his high school age boy, washing your clothes, all of those things. And then it talks about considerations as far as risk level of individuals, and risk level of COVID in the area. And then what Joel and I did is we broke it into different areas, which first one is summer competition, which actually Joel reminded me is occurring right now. Our baseball team is actually playing tonight, and kind of some limitations and information on that. The one there that was the hardest for Joel and I is spectators. I have no control over what Waterloo did as far as letting people in, but hoping that everyone is following the document and doing what they need to do to keep people safe. And then open gym is another one. We did have volleyball open gym, and that's been occurring. They've been taking the temperatures using the questionnaire and the form as far as checking all the kids as they come in, sanitizing the equipment, all of that. And then the lovely weight room. I have to really give kudos to Quentin Kaufman. He's really been doing a fantastic job. Him and I worked together and created a Google form that allows 10 kids at max to sign up for the time slots. No more kids can get in. He literally stands at the door and takes their temperature as they come in. He's done a really good job making sure things are clean and safe and where they need to be. And then there's just some links and different things as you go through this as far as points of emphasis and different things that could occur. You know, sports probably doesn't seem like a priority in a lot of worlds, and I understand that, but these kids need some normal in their life, and even just having that weight room open when I was setting up for graduation the other day, I saw nothing but smiles and waves and high miss and they're just happy to be back in the building. So, so far, knock on wood, everything is going as it should be, and Joel met with the coaches ahead of time and went over all the procedures and had them sign off that they would follow them, and that's kind of where we're working right now with the WIAA. Anybody have questions on that one?
I just hope you're feeling confident that your team is working well together and ensuring we're putting all those practical pieces together, being methodical, systematic, also the caring and loving and all those pieces that are very necessary to be a good school district. So we thank you for listening.
Okay, great, thank you again. Moving on to committee reports, public relations.
So we had a meeting on June 7th.
We had a meeting on June 17th. We had quite a bit on the agenda. Just a few things I'll touch on real quick. We did discuss various things like how to talk to the realtors and try and get some marketing into new families in the area and the community. I think that's important to get to them first. We also talked about we're going to be nominating BP for the WASB Business Honor Roll for all of the good work that he has been doing for the kids this spring and his promotions. We also talked about making teacher nominations. There's a Life Changer of Year Award. They're accepting nominations for teachers, and I know we have a bunch of amazing teachers in our district, and from a PR standpoint, I think it's important to start getting them some of the recognition that they get. We see all these other districts that get all the awards, and it's not because their teachers are any better than ours. It's just that someone's taken the time to do the research and make the nominations and tell everybody about it. And I think we need to start doing that because our teachers deserve that recognition as much as anyone else. So Caitlin was going to be doing some follow-up on that and getting that information out. The direct mailer went out, so thank everyone. That was kind of a real collaborative effort on getting that postcard out. I heard some good feedback on that. Carrie did that video tour for the middle school, and that was posted out today, actually. And I've got some good feedback and appreciation from some new families coming into the district that have seen it and appreciated that. Their first kind of peek at the beautiful building they were surprised we have here. So that was good. And then another cool thing is the Purple People book. I know Katie and Amy Booth got copies of that, and it's a wonderful book, children's book that actress Kristen Bell wrote called The World Needs More Purple People, and I just thought that really ties in with the purple people here at Panther Nation, and I thought it was a great addition to share with the elementary teachers in school. It would be great to get that in every classroom if we can, in every kid's hands. So So just, I think that kind of sums up everything that we hit on there.
All right, thanks, Tara. Curriculum policy.
Curriculum and policy met July 7th. We began by reviewing the band and music offerings. It was part of the discussion of the full board at the last big meeting. We discussed that the high school band teacher was to cover the 7 through 6 band, and then elementary band teacher was to cover 5 through 6 band, elementary music teacher to cover K4 through 5th grade. However, after kind of speaking about it, Al was there to kind of brief us on everything. We were told that the administration was working to see if the elementary music teacher could possibly take K4 through 5 music and 5th grade band. So we're still waiting for the administration to brief us on any updates with that. The STEP program, Al was gonna reach out to Jeff regarding moving the STEP program into the actual policy. We're just looking to actually put it in our policy book. And we're still waiting for administration to pull that verbiage and get it to us. And then we did review and make recommendations for some Neola policy updates.
Thanks, Christiana. Building and grounds.
Building and grounds, we met this evening. We continue to talk about facilities. We've saved a lot of money by recoding. Pretty proud of that. Zach and Gina have been very helpful in helping make sure that that happens. We have to make sure that the buildings are proper and safe for the kids. We did take some takeaways where we're going to start working on our budget for 2021. And then we'll be making a recommendation that was presented by Rich and Michelle about putting in a cleaning fee for possible usage of our facility, being the community room and or maybe any kind of rec sports in the building. A small $25 per usage fee would be asked for, and we'll probably be making that recommendation for the next board meeting so we can make a decision. Other than that, I've been pretty pleased with the direction and Rich's support and everyone else as we go down the road. So that's it.
Finance committee.
I really need a microphone so everybody can hear this. We are financially stable. Thanks to the hard work of this board, thanks to the hard work of our leadership team, the hard choices that we've had to make, we are financially stable. We anticipate that we will be under budget for this year, which means that we will hopefully be increasing our fund balance or being able to do some really nice things for those who have stuck with us and helped us get there. Should I say it again? Yeah, we should be here for a very long time, unless, who knows, the whole world gets like that. So, since we have such good news, one of the things, and we went through our entire treasurer's report, which was in everyone's board packet, and we've looked at our numbers inside, outside, upside down. Since we have such good news, we thought that it would be prudent to add a slot onto our website. We're working on how to make it fit appropriately so that people can understand it, because school finance is not easy, but so that it can be understood and people can see with transparency and clarity how financially solvent we are. So we look forward to having that. And Al is working on when we might be able to have a budget workshop for our school board, not only for education, but also of our board members, but also to develop further our budget so that we can remain in the situation we are. And we are so excited that we are looking at possible expenses of an additional 4K teacher and maybe another elementary teacher. So I'll just say it again. We're financially solvent.
Nice committee reports. Okay, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Can I make when do I make an alteration on that?
Wait, are you seconding it?
Can I alter, or do I have to second and then?
Second it first.
I'll second that.
So is there any discussion?
Can we move the consent agenda item D6, which is the music teacher, off the consent agenda and add to the action items? Just so we can have a further discussion.
Because you want to discuss it further,
Yes.
so you want it in the, so, okay, so
Don't you have to do that?
I think we should have done that when we approved the agenda. We're going to be yes for Tracy. Do you want to table it? Do you have questions?
Well, because it wasn't updated, the questions that came from the last board meeting were not fully vetted at the committee meeting. What was provided to us as a full board is not, from my understanding, accurate anymore, and nobody's given us the accurate information. Sorry, I thought I did it at
You do still need a full-time music teacher.
Yeah, that's the portion. So, I know the portion that's still outstanding is the allocation of the band instruction piece, but we still need a 4K through 5th grade elementary teacher for general music.
But if we issue her a contract that doesn't cover the band, you don't, how does that work?
Your contract sort of included as assigned, like that would just be an assigned duty that we provide to her in her scope of her regular elementary music role.
So we can approve it and then you can adjust that contract as needed.
Yeah, and she's a
Her
good teacher,
assignments.
so it makes sense. Sure.
We can adjust our assignment.
Yes, and she's a good teacher, she's good for music,
Yeah.
band, we're working with her, but we're very confident that she should probably be able to take over, right? And so we're just hiring the teacher, the music teacher we lost. We're not adding a position or even recruiting for the band an additional anything.
Yeah, from hiring her as a music teacher for our general music and assigning duties later for band, which she's aware that's a possibility, that would save us an entire FTE position
Yeah.
with benefits and salary. So that's a significant savings, but I don't want to lose her.
We're probably getting the 5th or 4th grade teacher that we need to add from that. I mean, there's a part of it.
Possibly, but we definitely need the music teacher regardless.
Right, we do. This is a necessary, this is not,
Right, I just didn't know if the
think we
the
need to
assignments
discuss.
could be adjusted after we made the vote.
yeah.
Let it be known, I agree we need a music teacher. I'm not at all saying we don't need a music
I think
teacher.
we need
I'm
to
just making sure we have the
discuss
ducks in
if
a
she's
row.
Qualified to do
before we go
that band at the next policy meeting, perhaps.
Perfect,
And we're going to be fine with this.
perfect.
Does that take care of your
That's
questions?
it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as stands now. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Action items. A, consider approval first reading of the following revised policies as recommended by Neola. That would be Luciana.
I move that we consider approval of first reading of the following revised policies as recommended by Neola. Section 0000, bylaws, policy 0167.1, voting. Section 6000, finances, policy 6116, time and effort reporting. And section 7000, property, policy 7540.02, web content, services and apps. And policy 7544, use of social media.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in Okay, great. Yeah, we actually moved her report up to board monitoring so we could have a full discussion and everything. So that was very nice report, thank you. Business manager's report.
My computer just died, but it's good back memory. So, like we said, I don't have that much to add to it. It is, we are expecting to either be slightly under you have to take it in the context of $3.5 million, $25,000 of a possible loss is nothing. And we could be talking about a surplus of up to 110,000, maybe a little bit more, but that would be just very helpful and too optimistic for me to even bring it up. So the finances are good. We're in good financial standing. Cash flow is good, and we have a good result for this year, well, for last year, and we are expecting a good result for next year. And hopefully, with all the adjustments we could possibly make this year, we're going to even be in a better position next year to not only perhaps make up for what we had to do this year to survive, but give a good result to the community and to everyone who works, employees, staff, everyone that is involved with us.
Thank you, goodness. Any announcements or board comments?
Sure. I'd just like to, I stopped by BP today and talked to our friend B. He asked me to come down and talk to him. And I just wanted to recognize, he wrote out a check for over $6,000 this week so that our boys and basketball teams have new uniforms. They desperately needed some of those uniforms we've been using for 9 years. So we definitely got our money's worth out of those, but he is so excited to be able to give this to the kids. And he's working on some other things as well. So I just, again, I can't thank BP enough at BP, and I just wanted to give him a quick shout out for that.
And tomorrow's the 15th.
And tomorrow is the 15th, so everybody stock up on snacks, soda, beer, fuel, everything at BP, because it's an extra 5% for our kids. And he also said that he basically is not giving anyone change back when they go there. He just puts it all in the donation jar, and he says no one complains.
Graduation, I'm sorry that it's but it is Sunday, senior awards night will be Thursday, live stream links are going to be available shortly. They're ready and free for anyone to push them out, so if you'd like to sit at your house and watch graduation, you can. It will be available for you, senior awards night, 7 o'clock.
I think it's important money enough to do it, and not everybody's getting in person, so.
What channel is it on?
It'll be on our YouTube channel. So, and there'll be a specific link for each event, so I will send that out to the entire district at once.
Yeah, I usually encourage everyone to go to Senior Awards Night.
Yeah.
It's the best thing in this district. Our kids get so many phenomenal scholarships and they're honored for so many wonderful things, but we'll have to watch it.
You can watch it online.
But I'm sure it'll be no less important to them.
Carrie, do you know the amount of scholarship money this year?
I do not, but she will have a total for me by the end. She always does, so I will email that out to you as well. But it's significant. I know we had some outside ones that were new, and some of our inside donors have given a little more, and so it will be a lot.
Any other announcements or comments?
Yeah, one comment. Signing up for the board with no one that was on the board before, facing dissolution, pretty damn looming. Not sure why the hell I signed up. Hoping I can make a difference of some kind. Look where we're at. So let's keep that going, because we still got a lot more to do.
I ask one more thing, just to consider for future meetings adding virtual meetings policy to our policies. That's probably a good thing to do, just to have the ability to, meet virtually.
We just read the first, well, it covers voting, but it also covers,
Oh, okay, so that's.
sending out, yeah, it covers out the
Okay.
specifics.
we can't read the Neola ones yet, the new ones
Okay.
yet, so in order to, thank you.
Okay, there's quite a few upcoming meetings. PR's meeting at, it says 6:60 and the school meeting
Oh.
at 6 o'clock.
That might be 7 o'clock.
Mine says
Or
6
7
o'clock.
I think it's 6:30.
6:30.
Gosh,
On July 22nd. Curriculum policy is at 5:30 on August 4th. Buildings and grounds is at 5:30 on August 11th. Finance committee is at 6 o'clock on August 11th, and their next regular board meeting is at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, August 11th. So hope to see you all at all of those. Can I have a motion to adjourn to closed session?
Make motion to adjourn to closed session.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we will now go into closed session. Thanks everyone, thank you all for coming.